Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. It's been a few months now since I did my eyeshadow palette declutter and have somehow managed to get as big of a collection as I had then over the past couple of months. So rather than doing a declutter, because I do like a lot of these shadows that I have, I thought I'd just show you my current collection. So you can see it all in front of you, but I will go through each palette individually and let you know my thoughts and as to why it is still in my collection. I keep all my eyeshadow palettes in this bag on top of my vanity, just so they're kind of all out the way but also easily reachable, and it's a great size, and bar the Emily palette and the Jaclyn Hill palette, they all do fit into this bag, which is great. I will start at the front here and show you. So this is the original Urban Decay Naked palette, which they recently announced that they were discontinuing and were selling it at a discount price. I purchased this palette I think 3 or 4 years ago now, and it was very well loved and was the only high-end eyeshadow palette I had at one point. I don't find myself reaching for it anymore, if I'm honest. Apart from when I every so often get a burst of nostalgia, I do reach for it. But I don't think I could ever get rid of it because it was my original high-end palette, and it is a great palette. I say I just don't find myself reaching for it as much anymore. But this, I mean, the shades are amazing. This shade Sin, and the shade Toasted were my two favourite shades and the ones that I'd reach for the most. And probably Sidecar, to be honest, because you see that's quite indented. There's not a great array of shades, it is all sort of brown, cool tone colours, but it is just so easy to reach for and make a simple look from. But yeah, definitely love this palette and won't get rid of it. To be honest, this might kind of make me use it again soon. Next to that, we have a couple of Revolution Redemption palettes, Iconic 1 and 3. So these are supposed to be dupes for the Naked palettes, and I did originally buy this to do a side-by-side comparison to it, but just never got a chance to do it, and I haven't really had much of a play with this, to be honest. I think the couple of times I did use it, I wasn't disappointed, but in my opinion, obviously the Naked palette is a better quality, but for the price I paid for this, I think they are £4 each. This wasn't bad, but let's swatch the same shades. So we have the equivalent of Sin, Sidecar and Toasted. So you can see they are still nicely pigmented and have a nice shimmer effect to them, and they're not really patchy in any way. So I think the only problem I had with this was the longevity of them. They don't last as long as the Urban Decay shadows, but looks wise they are pretty good matches. And then so we have the Iconic 3, which is supposed to be the same as the Naked 3, which I don't actually own, but I'm glad I have this because it made me not buy the Naked 3. This is one I actually received when I did a box swap with Super Lady, and she sent this one over to me from the US. So let me just swatch a couple of these shades. Again, they are really good quality and they do pick up really nicely. I think they just didn't last long like the last one, but I think to be honest, if you're not wearing a look for a long period of time, you probably could just wear this. I would definitely recommend these for £4. Next we have the Meet Matchmaker palette from The Balm. This is one of my current favourites and it's one of my recent-ish purchases. I got this on sale and I think I only paid just over £20 instead of the retail of £27.50. And when I first bought it, I didn't think I'd get as much use out of it as I do. I just love that there's plenty of options. There's colours, there's shimmers, there's mattes. You can mix and match them all together. You can use the pairings as they show, and they are great quality and long lasting and also blend really nicely. My favourite pairing is probably Matte Chavarin, which I will show you. Which is a really nice pinky mauvey brown and then a shimmer pink. I'm kind of into my pink shades at the moment, and these are really great and a go-to look, and I like these greens as well. I'm always tend to be drawn to greens in eyeshadow palettes, even though I don't wear them an awful lot. The green is a little bit patchy because it's so dark, I think. Sorry, the matte green. But the shimmer green is really nice, and they do create a nice sort of smoky look together, and I also do pair it with these kind of shades here to create a real smoky look. But yeah, this is a palette that I reach for most days to create just a neutral look for work, but then I do also reach for these greens when I want a bit something extra. I do have a lot of shimmer palettes, so I'm going to have a hand full of glitter by the end. I don't know if that's catching in the camera there. Next one we have is this little Tarteist Pro To Go palette by Tarte, and this still has its plastic in. This is a 6-pan palette with gold, mauve and sort of purpley tones in it, and this palette is great. I got this as part of a set and I didn't actually need it, but this is another one I found myself reaching for more than I thought I would. I really like the shade of the middle brown. It's like a chocolate colour, but I think it does have sort of slight purple undertones, and it pairs really nice with this Dominate shade, which is a pinky shimmery purple. And these blend beautifully and they last all day, and I do really love Tarte eyeshadows. I think the quality of them is great, and this, to say, is perfect to throw in your handbag. It's perfect for travel, and it's perfect to reach for when you're not too sure what you want to do and don't want to spend hours looking at a big eyeshadow palette picking a look out. Then we have this e.l.f. Mad for Matte, and this is the Holy Smokes palette. When I first purchased this, I was using it a lot, but if I'm honest, I haven't been overly reaching for it more recently because I am back in a kind of shimmer phase. But at one point I did have a slight matte phase and was reaching for this an awful lot. The shades that I tend to levitate towards the most are probably this sort of terracotta colour and this dark green colour. My favourite look to do was with these two shades, and probably this brown one as well. But they are really nicely pigmented, they blend easily, and they are buildable as well. Especially with the dark shades, it is quite pigmented, but on the eyes it doesn't translate as much, and it is buildable, which for me in dark colours is perfect, because if they are too pigmented to begin with, it's a bit intimidating and I'm not too sure what to do with them. But they're probably my 3 favourite shades from that palette. We then have another mini palette from Tarte, and this is the Tartelette Tease palette. And this one kind of has similar shades to the other one in that, apart from the goldy shimmer, and this is slightly more brown toned, and the shade that is in the Tarteist Pro To Go, I would say, sits exactly between this brown and this purple in my opinion. But you've got a couple of skin toned matte shades there. You can see that I tend to reach for this Wink shade here more. And then these are mid-tones, and then you've got your warm tones at the end, so easy to create a look. You can go top row, bottom row, mix all around, but this is one of my favourite shades, because to me it's like a sort of champagne-y warm brown shade. And then I really like this purple as well. It does translate darker on a swatch. It does show up more purple on the eyes, but that is a common look that I pair together with then the lighter shade thrown in there as well to highlight brow bone, etc. But this is another little great palette that I think was a standalone palette. I don't think I got that as part of a set. Next, this is a sort of mini palette that I have made up myself. It's a Magnetic Makeup Forever palette, but the contents of which are 2 Makeup Geek eyeshadows, and this is a Colourpop eyeshadow. This, if I remember rightly, is called Captain, and is a really nice matte khaki colour. It doesn't translate as pigmented as that on the eyes, especially when using a brush, but it is a really nice shade to incorporate with other looks. This middle shade, I can't remember the name of it, but is a beautiful greeny duochrome shade. I really do love a good duochrome, and it does actually pair quite nicely with this shade, and because they are next to each other in this palette, I do actually quite often wear them together. And then we also have this metallic grey shade, which goes on like a more sort of electric grey blue shade. Again, really nice pigmented, and the Colourpop shadow isn't the best for pigmentation and lasting power, but the two Makeup Geek shadows I can't fault at all, and I will actually probably pick up more singles in the future of these because they are really great. Then over here we have the Wet n Wild Poster Child palette, and this was one that I bought at an outlet for £1, so couldn't leave it for that amount. But as you can see, it's not been well used because it really intimidates me because the colours are so bright, but they aren't very pigmented, so they are buildable and they are a bit patchy, to be honest, but I like the idea of it being so bright. And there's a couple of the shades there. See, that pink doesn't show up very much. These two are quite pigmented, but that doesn't translate on the eyes really. I just need to dig into it more because it is really pretty and I could create some really nice looks from it. I just need to be less scared of it really. Next we have the Too Faced Chocolate Bar palette, and this is a palette that I was actually a bit disappointed in when I first purchased it. This was my second high-end eyeshadow purchase after the Naked palette, and when I got this it actually made me use my Naked palette that little bit more. I have used it a bit. I don't think I've ever worn this pink shade. I've only ever kind of swatched it. But other than that, I find the shadows are a bit muddy, to be honest. When I put a look together, they just kind of all tend to look the same shade. There's no definition between the colours. And I think this is a kind of, what we'd say, Marmite palette. People either absolutely love it or people just don't like it at all. I don't find anyone that just kind of thinks it's okay. From what I've seen online, it is kind of one or the other. But I was really disappointed in this, and I think I am going to do a makeup regrets video based on me not liking this and obviously a few other things in my collection as well. This gold is a really nice shade, and so is this truffle shade, but I probably have similar ones elsewhere in my collection and I tend to reach for them over this. This truffle shade is a bit patchy, and again, if you put those two on the eye, they're not too far apart, they would just muddy together. Even mixing the shimmers with the matte, I just don't like this palette. But I think because it's high end, I just can't bear to part with it. I keep thinking I'm going to give it to someone, but I don't know, I keep hold of it even though I don't like it, but I spent a lot of money on it, so I'm in a catch-22 with that. Then here we have another couple of little Wet n Wild palettes, and these are their trios / now quads. This was the first Wet n Wild palette that I ever tried, and this is the Walking on Eggshells. Picked this up for a couple of pounds on Amazon and I really do enjoy it. And this is one that I will tend to put in my handbag if I'm going on a work night out or something like that, because it's great to just not take up much room but still create a nice eye look. And the shades are quite pigmented, especially the crease shade in the middle there, but even the eyelid shade is pigmented as well. And the brow bone doesn't quite pick up as well on the eye if I remember rightly, but great little palette and a go-to one, especially for travelling or having in your handbag. Then I have the Petalette palette, which is in their new formula, and this is a purple palette. We have a dark plum for the crease, a pinky lilac shade for the eyelids, and then a really nice transition shade. I was quite disappointed with the formula of this, if I'm honest. I just found like I had to work a lot more to get the pigmentation to show on my eye. And I don't know if it's because the colours were quite pale, but you can see that this one is a bit patchy. The eyelid shade shows up well, but you have to apply quite a lot. And if you can see there, that transition shade is a bit chunky. Got bits falling out of it there, and it's a bit patchy. So having only tried the Walking on Eggshells and this one, there's supposed to be a reformulation. I do prefer the formula in the trio rather than the quad, but I'd have to probably try the quad of Walking on Eggshells to make that decision fully. The last Wet n Wild palette that I have is the Comfort Zone palette. This is again the old formula, like the Poster Child one here, and I did want to try the new formula of this just to compare, because I do really like the formula of this one, but I've just not got round to buying it. This has some really pretty shades in. They all work really well. The only one I probably have an issue with is this dark definer one here, because it's quite chunky. It doesn't go on the eyes very well. It does swatch well, but I don't think it translates on the eyes as well as does this black one there. Again, they swatch okay, but they just don't translate on the eye very well. My favourite shade in here is probably this definer one here, which is a duochrome. And in the pan, it looks like a kind of like a electric blue type colour. But when you swatch it, it actually has like a red undertone to it. Then it comes through with the blue when it catches the light. Really, really love this shade. Will sometimes just happily pop this one all over my lid, but even some of the neutral shades in here are really nice as well. And I don't think I paid more than a few pounds for this, so would definitely recommend this, but I can't say what the new formula is like because I've not tried it, and I think the new formula is all that's available now. Then we have another Tarte palette here, which is the Make Believe in Yourself. This is a palette that has some beautiful shades in it, but to me is what I would call an accent palette, in that it's not standalone, because it is 90% shimmers with a rather chalky highlight in the middle, which is okay for your eyes but not for your face, and then just one solitary matte over here, which isn't the best matte in the world, but all these foiled metallic shades on here are all beautiful. And I tend to reach for this to just put a pop of them in my inner corner. I find they are a bit much over the whole lid, especially because I don't really go out anymore, as in like I don't go clubbing or anything. Just for the pub, they're a bit too much, but for just a slight little inner corner highlight, they are beautiful. And the shades I probably reach for the most are Crystal and Trance. And then I really do like this blue shade, but I don't reach for that one enough. So that's Dream, Trance and Crystal. You can just see how pigmented they are and how much they catch the light. I didn't do the best swatch of Crystal, but they are really, really nice, and I say a perfect accent to brighten up a neutral look, to accentuate an already shimmery eye. I'm just really glad to pick this palette up. I don't reach for it all the time because I don't know, it doesn't call for a really shimmery inner corner, but it is a great palette and I don't think I could be without it, kind of thing. Then we have got the singles here. This is a Nude by Nature pressed eyeshadow in the shade Coral, and this is one that I believe I got in a Latest in Beauty subscription box. If I'm honest, I don't think I've reached for it since opening that box because I just don't find use for it. It is a really nice coral shade. It is pigmented on the swatch, but I think the couple of times I tried it, it wasn't really on the eye. So I'm keeping it in my collection, but I don't find myself reaching for it overly. Then we have this eyeshadow single by Kiko, and this is number 16, which if you've seen my video with little pictures, I had a lot of products that were just numbers in that haul, and I found it very confusing. I can't even get it open. I couldn't get it open, and when I did, I took a massive chunk out of it, so that didn't go too well. I don't remember it being that hard to open when I first tried it. So let me do a swatch of this and pretend that didn't happen. So this is a really nice pink shade, which does show up quite well on the eyes, and if you use it with a brush, it's quite subtle, but if you use your fingers, you can see it's quite bright. And I have used this a few times since when I've been creating a pink look for my eyes from a few numerous different palettes. I've used this all over the lid, and it is a great shade, and I'm devastated that I've just stuck a great big hole in it. We have what I would call my favourite autumn palette, and this is the Urban Decay Naked Heat. I haven't reached for this an awful lot over the summer, but I definitely, now that September, October has rolled around, I will find myself digging into this one again. I've seen a few people say that they call this their summer palette because of the colours, but say to me, the warmth of it, it just kind of speaks of the nights getting darker and the days getting colder and needing to light the fire kind of thing. Another palette that is kind of a Marmite palette in that people think there's not enough variation in it, but I can create quite a few different looks from it, no problem. Sometimes I can just use these first four and create a nice simple matte look. Other times I'll incorporate the red colours, sometimes I'll incorporate the sort of purpley shades, or I'll do a brown look. So I find it is quite versatile, and I do really enjoy reaching for it and can't wait to break it out now that autumn has come around again. My favourite shades are probably Lumbre, Scorched and Ember. So we've a brighter orangey shade here, then a coppery one in the middle, and then this is a dark brown shimmer shade, which didn't swatch very well. But they are really pigmented, blend really nicely, and are quite long lasting as well. This is one that I don't tend to put primer on with, and I can't wait to start using it again. The Makeup Revolution version of the chocolate bar, and this is the I Heart Chocolate. Again, I bought this because I was going to do a comparison to the chocolate bar with me not liking the chocolate bar. I wanted to see if I like this one a bit more. Let me just take that out. From the few times that I have tried this, if I'm honest, I have actually preferred this to the chocolate bar. I think they last as long as each other, they blend as well as each other, and the colour selection's obviously the same. I think I prefer this version of that shade in this palette to the chocolate bar one, because I think this is slightly more khaki toned than the previous one. This shade is equally as chunky in both palettes. This shade is equally as chalky in both palettes. The rest of the shades say just generally okay of a colour story, and they do still muddy together in this palette as they did with the original chocolate bar. But if I had my time again, I would just buy this one and not spend the £40 or whatever it was on the Too Faced chocolate bar. I might eventually get around to filming the comparison of them, not that it's remotely relevant anymore. A few more singles. This one is a Colourpop Super Shock shadow in the shade Sequin. This is another one that I was sent by Super Lady and was very excited to receive it because I can't readily get Colourpop here. This is a beautiful copper shade and is so soft and creamy, blends so nicely and does last quite a while. The only problem I have is it creases quite easily, so even though it's still on my eye by the end of the day, it is quite creased, so that does put me off reaching for this shadow more than I do. But it is such a shame because it is a really nice colour and it also is really nice to work with. The next one we have is one I received in a recent subscription, and this is by the brand Phase Zero. This is Gold Roses, which is a metal foil eyeshadow. And in the video, I did actually compare it to the Colourpop formula because it is super soft. This one does go on slightly more patchy than the Colourpop one, but it lasts equally as long, and I think this one didn't actually crease on my eyes as much as the Colourpop one did. It is a really nice goldy, coppery, slightly pinky colour. I have reached for it a couple of times, but I just find myself working out of palettes more than grabbing individuals, if I'm honest, so I don't know why I keep buying individual shadows. I didn't use these ones really till they were in this little palette. I then have a couple of glitter pots from the Tanya Bear Christmas advent calendar, I think it was. We've got Midnight Magic and Let It Snow. I don't know why I've kept hold of these because I don't think I'm ever going to apply loose glitter. I just keep thinking it might be fun at Christmas, even though I didn't use them last Christmas. So I'm going to keep hold of them for now, but I'm probably not going to use them if I'm honest. The single we have is by the brand, it is either Mina or 3INA. This is a 508 eyeshadow, and this is a beautiful turquoisey teal colour. I just think the pan size on this is crazy. It is like a blush pan, and it's a really nice shade. It doesn't go on your eyes as pigmented as the swatch. You do have to kind of build it up, and it can go slightly patchy if you're not careful. This one definitely does need a primer to assist it, but it is a really nice shade. My newest acquisition, which is the Makeup Revolution collaboration with Emily Noel, and I picked up the Once palette. I think it's a really great palette and completely worth the £15 that I spent for it, and out of the few Makeup Revolution palettes that I've tried, I think it is one of my favourites. There is such a nice array of shades here, and I've easily created 6 completely different looks without overlapping and the look looking the same in any way. So I'm really glad that I picked it up. As to formula, all I'll say at this stage is it's not high end, but it's worth the price. But check out the review videos for my full thoughts on this one. And the next one we have here is the Jaclyn Hill Morphe palette, and this is another huge palette. The only problems I have with the big palettes are, 1, they are really intimidating to try and create a quick look out of, and 2, they're so hard to store. But this has a beautiful range of colours and has a good selection of both mattes and shimmer shades, and I think there's also a couple of duochromes in here as well. If I'm honest, I wasn't as pleased about this palette as I thought I would be. Don't get me wrong, I still do reach for it on a regular basis, or did until the Emily palette arrived, but there are quite a few shades here that just don't perform like I thought they would. This shade here goes on the eyes really strange to me. It's quite thick, if that makes sense. It's a really nice colour, but it doesn't seem to work actually on the eye. And then this one is rather chunky, as you can see, and it just doesn't blend the best. I was also really disappointed with this green shade here because it's quite patchy and ends up looking quite muddy when worked with other colours. But then you've got the likes of this pink up here is one of my favourites, and that is one of the duochromes. And then I also really like this coppery shade here, but that's probably similar to something in the Naked Heat, and if I'm honest, once it comes to kind of wearing these kind of shades for fall, I'm probably going to reach for my Naked Heat palette over this. It's not a waste of money, but I'm just slightly disappointed in it. I don't regret buying it, but just slightly disappointed in it. One of my favourite palettes in my whole collection, and this is the Colourpop You Had Me At Hello. And this is a collection of browns and purples and pinks and the likes. And this was the first purple toned eyeshadow palette that I tried, and it made me fall in love with that type of tone. This is one that I reach for most days, kind of along with the Meet Matchmaker, to just create nice neutral looks, but also a pop of shimmer as well. These are probably the 2 shimmers that I dig into the most. They both are quite similar to each other, but this is a sort of pink side of the spectrum, and this is the purple side of the spectrum. You've then got this really nice gold here, which I don't wear enough, but it is a really nice shade. And then this purple here is really nice and goes well with most of the shimmers in here. It doesn't swatch the best, but it does actually go really nicely on the eye. I think if a Colourpop was readily available here, I would probably, based on how much I like this formula, have bought their whole collection of these 12 pan palettes, because I did really enjoy this, and they are such great value as well. I think this one was probably either $16 or $18, but I highly recommend this if you can get your hands on it. So that is it for my current eyeshadow collection. To me, it's a big collection, but I wouldn't say it's out of hand. It's manageable, and there are some palettes that aren't as loved as others, but I still do reach for them occasionally, so I don't feel that they're getting too left out. Let me know your favourite eyeshadow palette below and whether I have it in my collection or not. So if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you're not already. Thanks.